Good. Okay, so Damon Clark is the Regional Settlement Coordinator for the Association for New Canadians. He covers the area from Port aux Basques to Rocky Harbor, with the largest concentration of newcomers based in Corner Brook, Stephenville, and Deer Lake. Damon's background is in the media, communications, economic development, and municipal planning. He started his career with the Northern Peninsula, the weekly newspaper of the Northern Pen, the weekly newspaper of the Northern Peninsula and Southern Labrador. He later moved into the area of communications with the Viking Trail Tourism Association and Western Health. Damon has worked on federal and provincial elections, 4 census operations, and now he owns and operates 2 small businesses, as well as his position with the Association for New Canadians. So before we get to Damon's presentation, if we just want to go around the room and give a very brief introduction to just your name and who you're here representing. That'd be a great start to the session. So for instance, I'll go ahead. So I'm here today on behalf of GMIST, the Gros Morne Institute for Sustainable Tourism, but my position is with Gros Morne Gatherings. I'm the marketing manager for Gros Morne up in Gros Morne National Park. Okay, if we want to continue along. Anybody want to volunteer, or am I going to start picking out people here to introduce themselves?
I'll go next.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Hibbets, and I'm an Economic Development Officer for the West Coast with Horizon TNL, formerly known as REDE TNL, which is Newfoundland and Labrador's bilingual economic development organization.
Thank you, Andrew.
Next, my name is Ryan Cooper, and I work for a tourism consulting company, Touriscop. I'm personally based out of Southwest Nova Scotia.
Thank you.
Well, here, I am the Tourism Development Officer for Green Bay.
I can go next, I don't mind. My name's Connor. I use he, him, they, them pronouns, and I work for the Canadian 2SLGBTQI+ Chamber of Commerce, and I work on our Rainbow Registered 2SLGBTQI+ Safe Space Accreditation program here in Atlantic Canada and also with the rest of Canada as well. So great to be here. Great to see you all.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Emilie Hachier, Director of Immigration Services for the City of Dieppe, New Brunswick. Happy to join.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jocelyn Gilmore. I'm the Visitor Experience Officer for Peterborough and the Kawarthas Tourism in Ontario.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Tammy Lossing, and I have Jason Robley here with me. We're new to Newfoundland. We actually spend 6 months of the year in Minnesota, and we got to 6 months this year in Newfoundland and Rocky Harbor. So, and just interested to hear what's going on.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. The Grand Fall Windsor Heritage Society. Who are we speaking with there? No? Okay. All good. So Damon, the floor is yours. I'll let you have it.
Hey, Steve, thank you very much. It's my distinct pleasure to be part of your group this morning. I'm quite familiar with GMIST, of course, living in the area, and a fair number of people who work for GMIST, I know as well. And my background is in tourism on the Northern Peninsula, so there is that kind of common ground there. So now I've changed focal points. Instead of tourism, my day job, I'll say, is immigration. I came to this just under 2 years ago and came to it completely cold. Had no experience in immigration, really no knowledge of how it worked. So it's been a baptism by fire, if I can use a cliche. I'm based in Corner Brook, and I cover, as I said, as Steve said in my biography, the area from Rocky Harbor south to Port aux Basques. That's a fairly large geographic area, well spread out, and it creates challenges in terms of dealing with newcomers. In Corner Brook, which is a larger center, we have far more services for newcomers than we would have in the outlying communities. So we're trying to balance that as we work our way through. So tourists, this is kind of a tourism group. Tourism is a bit of a hard fit for immigration. And the reason for that, tourism, particularly in Newfoundland, is so seasonal that newcomers can't get full-time year-round work out of it. And that's crucial for them. Newcomers, and let me give you kind of the lay of the land as it relates to newcomers. many are coming to Canada. Our government has sort of invited them in. I think they see Canada as a good destination. But within Canada, I think they have some pretty clear ideas of where they want to end up. They also have pretty clear ideas of the route to that. And to be perfectly honest with you, most newcomers who come to Newfoundland, and I suggest most other places, the first and the major thing they're seeking is permanent residence. The reason for that is if they get PR, they can live and work anywhere in Canada. There are no restrictions on them. When they first come here as a student or on a work permit, they are fairly severely restricted. They can't really move anywhere until they get their PR. And part of getting PR is you're required to have 1,560 hours of work. Okay, and that's in the year lead, you apply for PR the year after, you need to get that many of hours. And what that works out to is about 35 hours per week for a year. I have dealt with a fair number of tourism operators in my area, or the area covered by my office, and it's a very big challenge for them to hire people seasonally and try to find year-round work for them. It's really impossible for a lot of tourism operators. Some of the larger ones are able to kind of spread the work out, or there's off-season work that that newcomers can take. But if you're a newcomer coming to Canada and you want PR, the chances are that you're not going to enter tourism. It just doesn't give you the opportunities to achieve what you want to achieve. Having said that, I have about 2,000 clients. Many of them hold advanced degrees in tourism, master's degrees, in a number of select areas. And of course, they're from a variety of countries. There needs to be a mix here, or fit. It's just the newcomers' needs doesn't really line up with the tourism industry's needs. And that's why a lot of newcomers who come, I can speak from Western Newfoundland, of course, because this is where I work. A lot of them who come here are here only long enough to get their PR, and then they're gone to Ontario, BC, wherever the case may be. And I think that's probably not specific or unique to Newfoundland. I think that applies probably at least to Atlantic Canada. And here's kind of the dichotomy. We have programs, for tourists, for immigrants in Newfoundland, in Atlantic Canada. One is called the Atlantic Immigration Program. And each province also has their own provincial pathways program, PNP it's called, provincial nominee programs. And the issue there is that no one's going to go into tourism if they can't get the 1,500 hours they need to get their PR, okay? And yet we have need, I think. We have need for expertise at the top levels. There's a lot of tourism operators who run it all themselves. One man or one person shows. And, we have newcomers coming here with master's degrees in marketing, master's degrees in, hotel operation, that kind of thing. And whether we can put them to work in a valuable way or not is up for debate. A lot of them come here, they end up working in fast food because it's the fastest way to get their PR. And I'm going to reiterate that a lot. This is of the utmost importance. Newcomers are very impatient. They want to get their PR as absolutely soon as they can. And you can understand that. PR, they need to achieve PR to have total freedom in Canada. So obviously a lot of them are aiming for that. A lot of them are coming to Atlantic Canada because of the Atlantic Immigration Program. And the issue there is that the Atlantic Immigration Program is the fastest way to get your PR in Atlantic Canada. So I have hundreds and hundreds of clients who are in the Atlantic Immigration Program. And just to give you a bit of an explanation, AIP is a heavily employer-driven program. It's up to the employer to do all the work to get established in AIP. And here in our area, really a lot of the employers do not have much choice. There's such a labor shortage here that they've got to put the effort in. If they want to have, you're not going to stay open if you don't have employees. You want employees, and I think they've all kind of exhausted the options with local residents, but you've got to go into a program like AIP that's going to attract newcomers. And you also have to go into the program like this with some reality, knowing full well that even though you'll put a lot of effort into setting yourself up, your company up for AIP, the newcomers you get are going to stay with you at maximum probably a year. Now, there are exceptions. There are people who love it in a particular area, whether it be Corner Brook or Rocky Harbor or St. John's, who decide, I'm going to stay here. They're very few and far between. I'm being honest with you. I'm being blunt. Okay. And therefore, I don't know if tourism is much of a fit with immigration, at least in our province, the way it works right now. There's a fit that's being forced onto it because tourism operators, like other businesses, desperately need employees, and many have no choice but to go into a program like this and expand their, I won't say expand their season, but expand the employment opportunities for their immigrant newcomers. Because these folks will not go to work for you if you cannot give them a solid year's worth of work, because they won't get their PR. Any questions so far? I noticed a couple people here are in Newfoundland, others Nova Scotia, there's a person from Ontario. So I don't know that our experience is totally relevant maybe for Ontario, because I suspect, I know, many of the people who used to be my clients are now in Ontario. And that's not surprising to me either, because that's where the bulk of their family is, or their friends. You know, like for example, in Newfoundland, this part of our area, we attract the largest numbers we attract are Filipinos, Indians, and Bangladeshi. A lot of these people have family in Ontario, Alberta, BC, and we're a stepping stone. They're on their way to those larger areas, but to get there, they got to get their PR. So they'll get their PR in Newfoundland, then they will leave. The challenge we have, and this is the broader challenge, not the tourism challenge, but the challenge we have is retaining. And to some degree, we kind of have to use the same terminology and maybe think the same way that the health field does. You know, it's not just about recruiting, say, doctors or workers, it's retaining them. If you recruit them and they stay with you for a year, well, then you're going to start all over again, okay, do all the paperwork to get another wave of newcomers. Whereas if we can interest some of these folks in staying in our areas and making it their permanent home, I think that would be a huge step forward as far as Newfoundland and immigration goes. You know, right now we're just sort of renting them. We need them here to settle in, to say, yes, I love this area, I want to stay here. But, and I'm going to be blunt again, we don't do nearly enough to make that happen.
Dan, I think we got a question. Nicole, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, Nicole?
Thank you so much. I just wanted to, can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay, just like using a new headset today, so I wasn't sure. Thanks. We have a lot of migrant workers here that are also looking for PR. We have many in this area in Green Bay, Newfoundland is where I am, which is in like central Newfoundland, in the northern, western, central, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know.
Northeast coast.
Anyways, we're up in the antlers, I say, in the top of Newfoundland. Yeah, northeast coast. And we've done really well in the area of retaining migrant workers looking for PR, buying houses, staying in the area. I mean, we've had great success stories with that weren't seasonal workers, because we do have a lot of workers that come in for the fish plant just for the season, and then they're on for the season and back again the next year kind of thing. But they're not looking for PR. They're getting hours and working, and I'm not sure what they're building to, but
they're more like migrant
but
workers.
we do have, yes, that's right. Whereas we do also have a lot of families that are, well, their families here now because their partner or one part of the family came to work here, and ended up staying, because I think what we need to work more on, which we've tried to do in the area, is creating an environment for them that they need, and trying to find what their needs were, and finding out what makes them happy to want to stay here, because people that are happy stay. Nicole, so I think we need to work more on that.
Yeah. And let's look at an example that's probably fairly germane to you in your area. And this is the Indian nurses who are being brought to central Newfoundland. Okay, so apparently there's 40 or 50 of them coming. That's just the nurses. That's not counting spouses, children, etc. Because Nicole is correct. A lot of newcomers will come. One will come, get PR, then they can sponsor a husband or a wife or children to come with them. But we've lured these nurses to come to central Newfoundland. So we lure them. You know, they're going to get, you know, at least a year or more worth of employment. But how are we going to keep them? How do you think we keep them? And I don't think we do it by bringing them to Newfoundland and saying, okay, here's Newfoundland, get used to it. Like, they need to have some comforts in their life that are their comforts, not our perceived comforts of them, if that makes sense to you. Just because we think they should like hockey doesn't mean you like hockey. And like a lot of the stuff we do here at the ANC is we have events that we put off. We spend a lot of hours putting events off. And generally, every week through the year, there's an event or two events. These are aimed at newcomers. These are free of charge. And they run the gamut from sporting events to cultural events. We've had national celebrations such as National Filipino Independence Day. Day of the Dead, which was just earlier this week or last week, which is big in Latin America. We've had get-togethers for Ukrainians, you name it. We're catering to their needs. We got to do that wherever they go. If you want to keep them in Central or Peterborough, Ontario, wherever you are, like you've got to cater to them. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Would you go live in India if there was nothing there, no Jig's dinner or nothing you liked? You know, and we got to think that way. We got to put ourselves in their shoes. And we try to do that here, but like we're one office in, you know, sort of the largest center in Western Newfoundland. But what about newcomers in all those rural communities? And there aren't a humongous pile of them, but they're even harder to retain because there's less services in those small communities. And I know wherever I speak, I've lived in many of those communities for most of my life. And, you know, if you're going to bring newcomers into Cowhead or Rocky Harbor, Steve, I mean, that's a challenge. Not even the tourism challenge of seasonality, but okay, to go to Cowhead, a community of about 400 people, what are you going to do at Cowhead? And if you're from India or Philippines, like how do you kind of have the comforts of home, if I can put it that way? And I think, too often assume that, oh, we like it, they'll like it. No, forget it. Ain't going to work. And if we don't change that attitude, all we're ever going to be is a 12-month of the year resting spot on their way to Ontario, BC, wherever. We've had a lot of discussion in our office about retention. And there's a couple of things that I firmly believe that will help retain them. One, get them into a business, get them to start a business. Again, I know wherever I speak, I have 2 businesses. I ain't going anywhere with 2 businesses on the ground. And I can guarantee you, anyone who invests money in starting a business and anyone who has will know what I'm talking about. You know, you're not going to invest that time and money and they say, nah, I'm going to Ontario now. Nobody. You're going to see your business through to the end. And if your business is successful, you're going to be happier. So I think we need to preach entrepreneurship to our newcomers. And again, we're missing the boat. Many of my clients are coming here. Again, as I said, they have advanced degrees. Many of them have worked in businesses. Many of them have had businesses at home. Okay. And like, I don't sense that we're making real good effort to tap into that. You know, entrepreneurs are fairly rare, you know. I mean, they're all over the world and we have them in Newfoundland, but we need more of them. And we need far more newcomer entrepreneurs. They bring a different perspective, okay, different kind of customer service. And I think there's an appetite amongst us, say Newfoundlanders or wherever we may live who are on this session, to kind of welcome people like that and have them be part of our community. I mean, I got to tell you, Newfoundland is one of the most homogenous places you're ever going to encounter in your life. There are, I'm going to say, Steve, dozens upon dozens of communities in this province that, until recently, never saw a Black person, ever in their lives, okay? And because we're spread out 1,300 communities around a vast coastline, I mean, we're all over the place. And there's no surprise that many Newfoundlanders until the last 5 years never saw a newcomer in their life. And try to attract a newcomer to a community like that. I mean, if you haven't got something going for you that can support them, and by the way, I don't think it's necessarily a fish plant, unless all of our fish plants suddenly become year-round, which very few of them are. I don't know that that's the best industry either. So, you know, and I'm kind of talking off the top of my head. These are my views, not necessarily those of my organization. But like, you take the Ukrainians. We brought over 3,000 or so here in Newfoundland. What do we do to prepare for that? Okay, let's talk housing. We did nothing, absolutely nothing. So now what's happening in Corner Brook is that our 100 or so Ukrainians, which is by the way, is the biggest pocket of Ukrainians outside of St. John's, they're now competing with people who are at College of North Atlantic, Grenfell campus, who are in the market for housing. And it is vicious, okay? I mean, if you don't react instantaneously to a housing ad, forget it, don't even call. There are actually houses that are being rented are snapped up within minutes because there's people who spend the day watching Facebook. The housing shortage is that severe. Yet we brought over, you know, out of the goodness of our hearts, or for whatever reason, I'll use that for now, all these Ukrainians. No one had kind of, that I know of, we weren't asked to do anything like this, like the prep work. So where are they going to live? Where are they going to work? Do we have the capability to teach them English? Okay, and the answer to those questions is no. We have ESL classes here, but we're not even scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of the language needs of our clients, particularly Ukrainians. And I'm not down on Ukrainians, but the poor buggers came here, and out of the 100 we got, there's probably 2 who can speak English reasonably well. The others, it's all Google Translate. I haven't seen so many cell phones in my life. And this is how we're talking. And I'm sorry, that's not how you settle into Canada. You settle into Canada by learning English and or French and living in our communities. Google Translate on a cell phone, I hope there's no long future for that, because that's not any way for people to survive. I really think that we should have had stuff in place for them. If we were getting 100 Ukrainians in Cornwall, we should have had extra resources to set up English classes. We should have had extra housing resources. We should have done well before they came a session or dozens of sessions with employers. Who would be interested? What would you offer them? What's the duration of the work you can offer? And what fields do you need filled? Because, you know, we got whether it's Ukrainians or other newcomers, we have quite a broad array of skills, skill sets, occupations, specialties. And we got people here from Ukraine whose background is international relations. Now, where are you going to use that in Cornwall? All right. So, I mean, I think we kind of, and I'm going to be generous here. I think out of the goodness of our hearts, we were too good. And did we help the Ukrainians by not preparing properly? I don't know. I got my doubts, because the struggle they face now is to learn the language, to get a job in their field, which they will absolutely never, ever get until they improve their English. These people got difficulty communicating. And if you're working front line in retail, no, you're not. If you're Ukrainian, you're not working front line in retail. Okay, any questions, comments? I'm kind of rambling along here. I forgot to even check to see if there's any messages. Yeah, okay.
I'll say my experience, Damon, I used to work on the DRL bus here in Newfoundland, which is the only transportation besides your own vehicle to travel from one end of the island to the other here in Newfoundland, for those that don't know. And I was a bus attendant on there last year, and there were a lot of newcomers being taken off a plane, put on a DRL bus, and shipped off to Cornbrook, Stephenville. A lot of newcomers were shipped to Stephenville from all over the world, not just Ukraine, but especially when the Ukraine migrants were brought here for safety. And a lot of them did not speak English. They came on the bus and they had a piece of paper with some money or somebody putting them on the bus when telling them this is where they're going. And that was it. And definitely there was culture shock. They were nervous, they were scared. And to come to a new place, I couldn't even imagine. I moved here from Ontario 10 years ago. And thank goodness I spoke the language. So it wasn't super culture shock for me, but it was different from being in the city to moving into rural Newfoundland, which I adapted quite well. But I couldn't imagine coming here. I also came here without my family, but coming here and not having any family, not speaking a language, not having the ability to feed your soul spiritually, because there's maybe not necessarily the type of religious experience that you need available here. And that's another big one too for us, especially in rural Newfoundland, is that I have people here from Morocco and stuff and families that we don't have a mosque or anywhere for them to practice their religious beliefs. They have the closest is Cornerbrook for them to go from Green Bay. That's a 2-hour drive for them to be able to get what they need.
I wasn't aware we had a mosque. We've been trying to get
well,
prayer room.
I don't think you have you don't have a mosque, but what you do have is a group of people who are practicing their religious beliefs together.
Oh yes.
And
that's happening in
but they don't have a proper mosque. That's right.
I think too, guys, one of the issues I've noticed in my time here is that for municipalities have not bought into this. Maybe they have, maybe they say they have, but put your money where your mouth is. Then we'll find out the truth. Municipalities control so much, and I'm assuming it's not just here in Newfoundland, but really across the country. In terms of housing, municipalities got to play a humongous role in that, but they don't. They say the nice things and the proper things and the things you'd expect they should say, but in terms of saying, yeah, we're going to be a community that's going to welcome immigrants. Here's what we're going to do. None of them have done it, and in fact, some of them are shocking, in my view, in their lack of effort. Couldn't care less. And that's not a very good attitude to have when you're trying to, plot the future of your community. And part of one of the major issues, you can't find enough workers and people are leaving, and here's this solution right beside you and you're not engaging it. It makes no sense to me. And, municipalities can say we don't have the money and so on. It's not all about money either. Municipalities have a lot to bring to the table and they just don't come to the table.
What do you think are a few things beyond money that municipalities could do, Damon?
Well, I mean, we have programs in Newfoundland 4 or 5 years ago, welcoming communities, we called it. Okay, so all these communities took the money, did their little thing, did a little brochure. That's it. No follow through, right? I don't know if anyone ever evaluated that process. But like, we got to be welcoming communities. Like, if someone moves to, I don't know, Deer Lake or Stephenville or Cormac, like a group like ours, if we're there, we'll do what we can. And we partner with all local groups, as many as we can, to provide things like this. We talked about a mosque earlier. I'm pretty sure there's no mosque in Cormac because we were asked to help the local Muslims get a prayer room. So we did that, and then they have a place to go do their prayers. It's not the greatest, but it's a place, which is better than nothing. But I think, we got to tell newcomers that, hey, we want you to come. We'd like you to come. And here's how we're going to prove that we want you to come and we like you. For example, any community can have a special event, welcome newcomers. Bring out local residents, let's all meet and mingle. Let's have a meal or let's share. I don't see that happening anywhere except outside of our events. Outside of our events, I should say. We do a lot of that. But, the buy-in, if I can use that phrase, is not very good from municipalities. We've been very disappointed at times. And like, the West Coast is a magnet for newcomers. They're coming every day. We got Deer Lake Airport there, so they have the means to fly in, and they're showing up at my office every day. But, what are we doing to welcome them other than us and this organization, which is, that's expected. But why isn't there a committee in every community say, welcome, Damon Clark, you're from India, love to see you, come in, we'll show you around now. Here's some people, meet the mayor, this kind of stuff. There's no effort into that. And I'm so fearful that we're blowing it. We're missing an opportunity. And again, I'll add the caveat that I'm speaking a little outside the realm of tourism because of the seasonality issue. But, what are we doing to retain these people? These highly trained, highly educated people, great work experience. I've talked about the Ukrainians and language issues. That's not the same with virtually every other people because you're not coming to Canada if you can't speak English, exception to the Ukrainians. So all of our other clients can speak English, okay? And they can bring their expertise here. They can bring their master's degrees if we take advantage and steer them into fields or into occupations or into employers. We've missed those pieces. There's holes all over the place. Questions, thoughts, comments?
Yep, I put my hand up there.
Yep.
Nicole again. I am wondering, for PR hours, does it have to be a single employer, or are they allowed to work with more than one employer? Because the ones I know
They can
here
work
have
with
always
more
had
than
one
one,
employer.
but
But
I'm going to tell you, Nicole, that's really challenging to pull together for 2 businesses or 3 businesses or whatever. And I think the client would prefer to do it all with one employer. I think IRCC would prefer it that way. It's a lot easier to track. If you've got 2 jobs, that's twice the tracking you got to do, twice the paperwork because you got to submit, your work forms from each employer and so on. But yes, they can do that.
yeah, I'm just trying to
and
think
like
of solutions for I'm just trying to think of solutions for seasonal employment.
Yeah.
And we do have some other businesses that maybe can give them some more hours over the off season, and that it might take them 1.5 years instead of a year. But you know what I mean? Like they can, they could probably, at least they'd be able to stay in the same area and get some more employment if
But
that's
what's
something
happening
that
now in
was
our
able to
area,
happen, right?
without naming a particular business, there's one hotel I'm aware of that is essentially employing newcomers for like the season, which in our area probably May to September, and then they're kind of putting the work sort of housekeeping or maintenance, other departments within their say hotel, and they're managing to kind of spread them out enough to get enough hours that because it's not just the money either. It's the important thing is the hours they need to accumulate to get PR, and that's their single-minded goal of newcomers. So I mean, if you're an employer and you meet with a newcomer, say I can only employ you for 6 months, but they're not coming. Okay, they're going to go somewhere, even if it's Tim Hortons or McDonald's, where they can get their full-time hours. And like newcomers think very clearly in goals or steps. First thing, PR. Once they get to PR, they'll sort out, okay, what's next in my life? Where am I going? Because the chances of them staying in Newfoundland is pretty slim. I just think we could do so much more to keep them. Even if we told them, and we don't do this, we'd love for you to stay in our communities forever. How can we make that happen? No one's having that conversation with them, right? And well, maybe me, but I'm sort of a bit biased because I work in an organization that's supposed to do this. But you know, where's your municipalities leading this? Where's your business sectors or your chambers of commerce or whatever the case may be? And everything's kind of interconnected, dominoes. You know, one thing leads to the other. So, for example, we have a humongous daycare issue here. Here being Corner Brook, I could also say Western Newfoundland, I could say all of Newfoundland, I could probably say the entire country. This is particularly important for newcomers. They come with their families. They cannot go to work if they cannot get daycare. Unlike you or I, they have absolutely no ties to the community. So you can't call on your aunt or your grandmother or your mother to take care of the kids while you go to work. So if there's no daycare, there's no work. And what happens is that, say, families like Ukrainians are forced to essentially, only one of the parents can go to work because the other has to take care of the children. And in a lot of cases, they're working for minimum wage. And think that through. One person in the household making minimum wage, like that's below poverty. You need two people working just to make a livable income, just to put enough food on the table. And then I'm not talking about prospering. You're just getting by then. Two people making minimum wage. Well, we're only at one person. We can't do the mother or the father who has to stay home with the child because there's nowhere to send the children. And that's particularly heavy on those who have younger children who aren't of school age yet. If they're school age, then the issue becomes, okay, what do I do with the kids from 2:30 on to 5 when I get off? Right? So, and if those things aren't in place, I mean, this stuff will not happen. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any messages there. Anyone got a hand up? No. Oh, do I see a hand there?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, fire away. Sorry.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry, Emily.
Thank you for sharing your experience and your insight. I see that challenges that you are living are quite similar from regions in New Brunswick as well, and even rural. I'm more from Southeast, and what I find interesting is, like you were mentioning, like municipal and regional support. For example, here at the City of Dieppe, just to share our experience, for us, the council did put immigration as a priority.
Okay.
So we now have immigration services, which I lead, and I even have someone working with me because the municipality decided to put that as a priority.
Yeah.
I'm for us, it came from many consultation with stakeholders and regional, such as the LIP. I don't know if you have also a LIP in your region, but for us, it kind of went down with all of these. So I'm really wondering if ever there's a place or a time that you would like to discuss on how, as a municipality and region, we try to support newcomers and having more welcoming actions. I would be more than happy to have a chat.
And I appreciate that because I think that is a critical issue.
It is. Yeah.
You're employed by a municipality. You're,
Yep.
for lack of a better term, an immigration agent or whatever, not an agent, but you know what I mean. I don't believe there's a municipality in the entire province of Newfoundland and Labrador that has hired one single person, and I'm including St. John's. I know Corner Brook hasn't, and I don't think any of the other larger centers in the island have hired a single person to act for the municipality as sort of a go-between with newcomers.
Yeah.
And you take Corner Brook. I have, my God, I've got 1,500 clients here in this city, and the city doesn't have a single person on staff who deals with those people. They leave it all to us, and like, we're settlement. That's the most basic of the basic. Okay.
Yes, I did that.
We
for
don't
many
go beyond
years.
that.
Yeah.
So there's a role there for somebody to play if they only step up.
Yeah.
So
But
kudos to your municipality, Emily.
And we have also like strategic plan, and if ever you want to get in touch, I would be happy to share what we
Yep.
do as a municipality and how we support our settlement organization.
Do you have my email address?
I don't, but I can put my
I'll
email in the
I'll
chat.
punch that in here in a second. Anyone who wants to communicate with me, I'd certainly welcome it.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is correct. I mean, you guys are leaders, perhaps. We need some of your leadership over here, and we got communities that have, like, you take a place like Cornwall, 1,500 newcomers. My God, man, that's a pile of people.
It
And the
is,
needs
yeah.
are on. I mean, I'm nonstop here. I don't even get lunch most days. And it's just in the door, in the door, in the door. Sure to God, someone can see there's an additional need there aside from just the Association for New Canadians. right? I mean, and this is why I said earlier, municipalities need to get involved in this. There's benefits to be derived, if I can be callous about it. And I apologize for that, but sometimes that's the only way you're going to get people to move. If they see a benefit for them. Well, yes, there's a benefit for municipalities to get involved with newcomers.
There is.
You know, labor
happy
market.
to share.
One thing, labor market, right there.
Yeah.
Every community in this province and perhaps Atlantic Canada has labor challenges. Well, if you had someone on your staff as a city of St. John's or city of Cornwall, that would be a valuable person to kind of deal with those issues. You know, and like I often think because we're here, it's, oh, well, they're there, we don't need to do that. I'm sorry, that's not an excuse. I don't accept that. We do very basic stuff. I mean, I'm getting people MCP or health cards. I'm getting people social insurance numbers. We have staff in the office who help them get apartments and jobs. But, you know, even to help them say, we believe and we know getting them to form businesses will help them stay. Well, we really don't have the staff per se to do that. So this is where municipalities need to come in because they're the ones who govern completely what happens with the business inside municipal boundaries, whether it be zoning or permit approvals. And I did this in a previous job for 6 years with the town of Deer Lake. So I know what's involved on that side. So I think there's a lot to be gained. And the way things are now, I mean, you're almost
okay. I'm really actually interested to hear what she has to
Sorry?
say. Can we have her? I'm sorry. She was saying something and then you had just interrupted, but I believe she was going to say something. And before she loses that thought, I don't know if you remember, I didn't catch your name.
My name is Damon. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. The other woman who's speaking.
Emily, I think she's referring to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Okay, yeah. I believe she was about to say something and I don't know. If it was important, I really wanted to hear it. But maybe, okay.
I was just saying I would be happy to I can share in the chat like our strategic plan as a municipality. What are the actions we do to support and make sure that we are a welcoming municipality? And if ever people are looking to get in touch and to see how we do on a municipality level, I'd be happy to share.
Well, it's very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very good, Emily, and we do appreciate that because again, I think immigration and us as a province sort of undertaking this is, you know, obviously it's been around forever, but it's a very acute need right now. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, and again, I apologize if I missed anything there, but I believe that's, Emily, where we ended off. And that's why I've just sent you guys my email address. Feel free to share. If there's anything you want to ask me after this presentation, don't hesitate to contact me. Now, did I send that? Yes, there we go. Thank you, Emily. Any questions or comments at this point? You guys are all involved in tourism. Do you have any particular thoughts vis-a-vis tourism and immigration or newcomers? Anything that, you know, is affecting you in your area, good or bad?
Yeah,
I find in my area, it seems like a lot of tourism operators feel that they're, because of the seasonality, that it's not a field they'll even consider.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to sort of relate to what we see here in Gross Mourne, and I think there's one operator in particular who's got into immigration, but they have some year-round operations, and that's where they focus, right? So I think the seasonality of it makes it very difficult for a lot of the businesses. You know, they start open mid-May and they're operating till Thanksgiving in October. And a lot of the programs, you know, for permanent residency, as you sort of alluded to, it doesn't allow for that, right? And you know, and our season is quite stark, right? Like I'm still up here now, and it's a very different world than what we see in the summer. So yeah, those businesses can't necessarily operate a loss during the off season, even if they wanted and needed people. And we do need people up here. And I think I can relate back to housing as an issue with short-term rentals, people investing, contractors building new housing. So there's a lot of pressure, and there's not a lot of capacity in these small municipalities. So I'm here in the town of Norris Point, 600 people. We just have enough staff to operate, collect garbage, and do those sorts of things. So it makes it very difficult, even though we have a need, and I see it from a day-to-day, and a want as well in terms of developing a more multicultural society and more welcoming. We have visitors from all over the world. People like to see themselves here,
Yep.
But and there's no easy answers, I think. So yeah, certainly, you know, so we like to see it. We do see it where there are year-round operations, but again, that's very just very focused businesses, you know, in the park up here. So yeah, I think that's it's difficult.
And Steve, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of so many of our communities are so small that a lot of our municipal councils don't have the means, but can they not come together and kind of approach this regionally? You know what I mean? Like everyone throw a little bit of money in, and I'm not saying necessarily hire someone, but you know, you got to explore your options here. And I don't think any communities have really done this.
And I think again in Gross Mourne we have a lot of people who come in. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's my phone ringing. I think someone else got it, I hope.
Oh, gotcha. What I was going to say is in Gross Mourne, we don't have a lot of the people coming in working for Parks Canada, working for some of the organizations in the area aren't necessarily from here. You sort of referenced that earlier. So everybody's from the outside. So I think, yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be a money thing, but maybe there are, you know, in terms of events coming together, you know, some simple things we could do is communities, North Point, Rocky Harbor on the north side, on the south, you know what I mean? So again, I don't think it necessarily has to be a money thing. You know, we have space, we have a town hall, we can easily advertise, hey, we're just having an event for everybody, you know, and so again, I don't think it needs to be you know, capital intensive. I think there are some small steps you can be welcoming to everybody within the community. So I think that's a really good point too, Damon. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, where we're so sparse population wise, we've really got to take that kind of approach. We got to work together. None of us, you know, I'm talking in Newfoundland outside the scope of the larger communities, but all the rural communities, I mean, individually, very little resources, but come together regionally, maybe you can do something. I think as well, this is sort of the chat where I make the exception for tourism, but I think at some point, the tourism operators kind of need to approach government and have a talk about this and see, is there any way this can be adjusted, or is there a future for the tourism industry vis-a-vis immigration? Because right now, maybe there's not. You know, I don't have any clients, I don't think, working in tourism year round. I have people who work 6 months in tourism and the particular operator has another business they can shift them to. That's very much the exception than the rule. But, you know, I mean, I guess it's not our fault tourism is seasonal. It's more the weather, I think, than anything. But the big challenge there is having a conversation with the IRCC. That's the federal government. They control all this. They're the ones who set all the rules. But there really, to my knowledge, hasn't been any recognition that, you know, the seasonality of tourism is a big impediment.
Now, are you sort of referring to
Damon and our? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you. I just wanted to say we're in development. We're in year 2 of development for, like, I'm the tourism development officer for Green Bay, Newfoundland. So we have 12 municipalities. We have 13 unincorporated areas in the area. It varies from, you know, towns of 100 people to towns of 3,200 people.
Yep.
And we have been working on our tourism development in trying to figure out, like everybody else, about how do we extend our season? How do we shoulder our seasons longer? How do we create spaces for them to be all year long? Now, our last major meeting that we had with several people in the room and some brainstorming on these ideas, and some of the local employers said, our local tourism operators that do shut seasonally have said, like, maybe a couple of us are going to have to bite the bullet, stay open all year long, even though we're probably going to take a bit of a loss over the winter, just so that more people will want to do it. Yep. So that's something that we're looking at doing for not this winter season, but the next winter season. Yeah. In 2024 to see how it goes. So they're going to give themselves the year to kind of prepare and get ready. And we're going to kind of brainstorm some ways of them and how we can help and myself as in my position in advertising and preparing some ways to create a longer season and enhance our winter and off season, as they call it. Yeah. Because our off season is very weather reliant. Mm-hmm. You can't tell people to go skiing if there's no snow. You can't go fishing on the pond if the ice didn't freeze. You can't, you know what I mean? So it's just a matter of just trying to think of some other things that you can do on those times when you can't. Because I have operators here saying that we have people here for the weekend. Is there anything going on? And I'm like, no, sorry, because this is closed and this is closed and anything like that. But we do have the brewery out our way. The Bumblebee Bite Inn and Brewery did hire a chef from Morocco who got his PR. You know, his family here.
Yep.
And what they did for him is they laid off their other employees and let them be laid off for the winter and kept him fully employed over the winter so that he could get his PR.
Yeah.
And that's just how they chose to do it, because I mean, he was excellent at his job and he enjoyed it and he wanted to stay. And he's since bought a house and brought his wife and kids here.
Well, there we go.
And
There's
that's a
your
success
retention.
story for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Nicole, like in the outlying areas of Newfoundland, and obviously that's my knowledge, but all the Atlantic provinces have very rural areas. I think, you know, we can't do much of a seasonality. We can't, you know, we have no influence on Mother Nature. And I think part of the solution may be for businesses to kind of come together and collaborate on the hiring of a Damon Clark. Okay, the hotel takes him for 6 months, the convenience store takes him for 3 months, and then 3 months he works somewhere else. Pieces it all together, gets his hours, got his PR. We may need to be creative in that way.
Yeah. Well, and
Or-
that's
I
what I
don't think we
alluded
can
to
extend-
earlier when
we can't
I
extend the
asked.
season. Sorry, Nicole.
Oh, I was saying that I alluded to that earlier when I asked if they could be employed by more than one
Yes.
employer to see if that's something that can be collaborated on.
Yeah. On the
And back to
phone.
the biking. I was
The
gonna
phone
say,
person
back
is
to the
talking. I'm sorry, I
biking is
forget
a
your name.
lot of fun and-
Sorry, I can't hear
sorry.
you. Whoever's
Can
on
you
the
hear-
phone? On the phone, could you speak up a little bit?
I apologize. I think I had to change to a different room to get reception. Can you hear me now?
It's very low, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, so back to the biking, the fat tire biking that we do in Minnesota is a ton of fun. So back to the, you know, sort of extending the season. I mean, we've only been up in Robert's Arms twice, but we'd go up there if we were here in the winter for sure. So
Yeah. Yeah, and like in Newfoundland, I'm sure some of you are aware, like we have made some developments and initial developments perhaps in winter tourism, you know, particularly in, like, say, the Deer Lake area for snowmobiling, that kind of thing. But you're still gonna have gaps. I don't think we're ever gonna have very many tourism operators who are open 12 months a year. It's just not gonna happen, I don't think. There's not enough business there, there's not enough tourists there. You know, certain times a year you don't see a tourist at all. But that's why I suggested that perhaps the business collaboration model might be a better one in terms of retaining newcomers.
I did want to go back to the you mentioned the IRCC and some of their other programs. I know there's an agricultural workers program. These are short-term programs, as well as I think Nicole mentioned the fish plant worker program. Do you think there's some room in terms of the IRCC developing sort of a tourism-based? I know it's not long-term. I know it's not necessarily the type of immigration we want, but in terms of filling those short-term gaps within, you know, those peak season, do you think there's some room for the federal government to do a bit more work there?
I wouldn't hold my breath. IRCC is incredibly rigid, very set in their ways. There's no negotiation or talking to them. It's our way or the highway. I think that has this has to develop through political pressure higher than us. You know, the provinces, the Atlantic provinces, perhaps need to come together to say, hey, we need to tweak this. We're not doing justice to the tourism industry. And, you know, someone needs to sit down around a table like we're doing here and just throw ideas out there and see what would work. How could we do this? And, you know, IRCC is a bureaucracy, a very rigid bureaucracy. So I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't hold out a lot of hope that they would be flexible. This is why I'm suggesting political pressure maybe has to come.
Yeah, no, great points. So of course, I know these are some things I've just heard around the table. So and yeah, of course, the federal government can be very staunch in the rules and regulations. So
yeah,
I totally hear you.
I often say it's funny, hey, because you look at the regulations and what newcomers have to go through to get PR. Boy, we're not very friendly at all. Like, do we not want immigrants? I look at some of the regulations and the hardships some of our clients have gone through just to try and get from one level to the next, and I don't think we want them. The way it's set up is it's just so negative, and there's no compassion or humanity there. No, you didn't fill out your form properly, in the garbage. Do it again. Like there's no like I say, there's no humanity there, and that's what bothers me. You know, like you know, we're in Newfoundland now, and those of you who know us know we're a little bit more on the humanity side, and we like to treat people nicely. But this really bothers me that I've often said to my colleagues, "Said you sure we want tourism? We want immigration? It doesn't seem like it. The way we treat immigrants, and that's the federal government I'm talking about, not the people."
Sure, and you even look at provincially, like it's been a big push for our province, has said that this is how they're going to solve or try to fill a gap in population retention for people, is by bringing more immigrants into the country. But if we don't have these services and these supports and these things that they need, we're literally going to be a stepping stone. They might come here
Yeah.
for a season and be gone again. And
But
we
and
need
again,
to do way more work.
yeah, and I don't think we've ever planned. In my background, I've worked as a planner, you know, so I'm a little anal at that way. But sure to God, if you're bringing in 2,500 people from a foreign country, none of whom speak English, you would do some prep, wouldn't you? Would you check out to see, okay, is there any point in sending them to Cornwall, but they don't have any housing, or where's the jobs, that kind of stuff? None of that, to my knowledge, was ever done.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can certainly approach these issues from our own perspective. And in saying that, what I mean is like, okay, up in Gross Morin, again, with my regular position with the 8 hotels, you know, human resources, we need people. Oftentimes we don't take the time to think, well, what do these people need on the back end, right? So I think that's a very good point, Damon, in terms of holistically thinking about humans, and when we're bringing people in, being compassionate, thinking about you know, the wider things they need as a person from another country. So I think that's a really good point too. You know, where they're not just robots to plug and play in a business, they have their needs too. So I think that is a very, very valid point. Yeah, I guess any more questions? Any more points, Damien? Damon, sorry.
No, I think I've been talking almost an hour. Wow, sorry about that. I get a bit passionate about it. I'm sorry, and I get it upsets me at times, you know, because I deal with these people. They're sitting right across the desk from me, face to face. They're there with their little girl and their little boy and their wife, and I'm saying, oh my God, you know, what can we do? How can we help? And they get the help here, then they go out onto the street again. I'm saying, oh geez, I hope they're okay. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much you can hold their hand, and I fear that we're not really treating them very well, you know, as well as we could. And we don't have an eye to the big picture, or the long term. You know, if we seriously want these people to help us with our labor shortage, well, we should be trying to make efforts to get them to settle here permanently. You know, and like every day, there's people get their PR and gone. So we got to have a steady flow just to maintain the status quo.
Yeah,
that's no way to build.
And we all know we need young people.
We need on a government. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry,
Nicole.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. All good.
Thanks, Steve. I was going to say, I attended Small Business Week in Newfoundland was a couple of weeks ago, and I attended a breakfast that was sponsored by our CBDC and our local Chamber of Commerce, and they had the local government representative for migrant workers. She does the programs, all the programs that are fed from the government to employers to hire people. And she talked about, you know, all the different programs that they have, and she pushed very much these programs to hire, for employers to hire immigrants to come and work, and talked about the process of how it's done, but didn't talk once about anything holistic, about the communities needing to be inviting, the communities needing to have supports. She just talked about the logistics of how to get someone, hire them, and bring them in, and what your responsibility is while they're here.
Well, your responsibility extends beyond that. You don't just bring them in and walk away and say,
ridiculous,
right?
I know, but they didn't even once talk about any of that. Like, it was very, this is a piece of pen and paper, and that was it. It was a bit disheartening. And I did talk to her about it afterwards, because I said, I can't believe, like, you're talking about human beings. And I think we've taken that's kind of gotten away, because they're just plugging them in, plugging in, and it's sad.
Yeah.
But I do.
And I started this conversation by saying I think we're missing the boat. So maybe I'll end on the same tone. I think we really got to improve. We're serious about this. We're serious about needing newcomers to bolster our communities, our workforces, whatever the case may be. Get off our effing asses and do something about it.
No, I think that's a great point, Damon. It's needed. Immigration is needed. I know Newfoundland, Western Newfoundland, We have an aging population. I see so many gaps, entrepreneur wise and
Yep.
HR wise, and within businesses. And obviously, we need to. It's something we need to approach holistically, but it is needed foundationally, and I think that's through Atlantic Canada. We're all seeing that demographic shift. And if we don't bring in new people, young people to work jobs again, again, Norris Point last year, we were wondering who was going to clear driveways, right? So there's opportunities everywhere. And again, I think we need to think differently about maybe how we're approaching this as a province and as community.
We have to be friendlier.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking holistically about immigrants as people who have their own needs, wants, and desires, right? When they're coming to very small communities, which can be culture shock for them, just as much as me going to Calcutta or somewhere in India.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And it's funny you say that, Steve, because when I talk to people, that's what I often say, like, how would you feel if you had to move to India? Okay, how would you adapt? And I'm saying to myself, no, you wouldn't adapt. You'd be home again in about 3 days. These people are taking huge risks. A lot of fear involved in this, a lot of trepidation. And, I'm glad that the ANC is here because at least, they know there's a place they can come. It's a safe place. They will get help. They will be welcomed. But, we're an office here in Cornwall. There's one in Grand Falls and Gander. We've got the area covered in terms of large communities, but out in the rural areas, that's where the challenge lies, I think.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for, coming here today, Damon, and imparting, what you guys do, what you offer, and what's needed, because I think we all needed to hear that. We needed to hear that as well. So it's very much needed.
And I've left my email address there. Anyone, don't hesitate to drop me a line. We can have a further chat, or I can pick your brain or you can pick mine. Fair game.
So any more questions, comments? All good. Okay. So I just wanted to, there's a little bit of housekeeping here. So there's a reminder, there's going to be a survey sent out as well about this session in terms of grading it. As well, there is the next Sandbox session is Tuesday, November 14th at 10 a.m. Atlantic time or 10:30 Newfoundland time. I think that's right. And that one's shifting the narrative, discovering, connecting, and mobilizing for community-driven change. And that's with Jess Pop with the Coady Institute out of Antigonish. Great. The Coady Institute's a great piece with the University of St. FX. I know myself and Nicole both know we've done some work with them. And Jess is a very interesting speaker, well-rounded individual, and she brings a lot to the table. So that'll be a very interesting session as well. So I encourage everybody to sign up for that. Otherwise, thank you so much for everybody attending today. Again, Damon left his contact there. And you can all, I think, contact Nora as well if you have any more questions, comments, or otherwise. So again, thank you so much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.